Hi, and welcome to the project management module in this class. So today we're going to review some of the fundamentals of project management. The idea being the non-for-profit leaders are leaders, and they're trying to organize things, and this class is about organizational change and organizational design, and you're going to try to make change happen. Well, some project management tools might be awfully helpful because they're the people who used to driving projects, organizing things to make them happen. So I used to be a certified project manager, well, still am, and I teach project management class. So I thought I'd throw a module in to give you some experience in project management, and we're going to have a little scheduling exercise at the end of it. So first of all, what is a project? Right? So a project is a unique one-time operation designed to accomplish a specific set of objectives in a limited time frame. So it's a unique thing, it's a one-time thing. So paying payroll every Friday is not a project. Upgrading the IT system that pays payroll, that would be a project because it's a unique one-time item. And so because they're one-time unique activities that have a specific time frame, we're going to talk a lot about what it is you're trying to do, how much it's going to cost to do it, and what's the time frame for doing it. Right, so projects, limited time frame, narrow focus, very specific objectives. What is it we're trying to do? They tend to be less bureaucratic. They're more you focus on implementation, right? And often we use cross-functional teams because we need the different skill sets to get things done. Right? And project managers like to have our little jokes, right? Here's one, right? Achievement. You can do anything you set your mind to when you have vision, determination, and an endless supply of expendable labor. There you go. And there's a whole series of these. If you look up despair.com down here, there's a whole series of these. And you'll find these occasionally around offices in the U.S. So in projects, we talk about the three things that come up over and over again. And when project managers have to report on the status of the project, they have to report on the schedule, right? How are we doing on time? They have to report on the budget. How are we doing on cost and spending money? And then the scope, the work we're trying to do, the objectives. How are we doing towards completing those? Right, so those three things get pushed all the time. And it's not unusual that if one changes, the other ones change. So for instance, if somebody adds to our scope of work, we have to do more things now, it's probably going to cost more money, and it's probably going to take longer. Right, so these three things are interrelated. Or if I want to shorten time, one way to do that might be to bring extra people on the project, but that might raise costs because they're going to be less efficient. They might be in each other's way or something. So if I try to shorten time, it's like traveling somewhere by aircraft versus car. Car's cheaper, but aircraft is a lot faster, but the cost is different. Some key success factors you'll see in projects. Successful projects have top-down commitment, so upper management above the project are committed to giving the project its resources and things it needs to get it done. We have a capable project manager, somebody with experience, somebody who can drive this project. A leader, right? They have to have time to plan. So we're going to talk about scheduling in here in a little bit and how to plan a schedule, right? And they're going to pay attention to what's going on. They're going to have tracking and control. And then good communications. We certainly need to communicate both inside and outside the project team. Right, so project managers and responsibilities include, well, they're actually responsible for everything because they're captain of the ship. But again, the scope, right? What it is we're trying to do over here, time, cost, right? All those things that need to be done in a quality manner. They're also responsible for the people, the human resources inside and outside the project, and the communications, both communications inside and outside the project. So just knowing what you're doing from a technical standpoint is not enough. So some of the skills we typically see in project managers are the same things that make good leaders. Vision, and they share that vision with others. Good communicators, they have integrity. We believe them when they tell us things. They have enthusiasm for the objectives. They have empathy for the workers. They have competence. They have people. They delegate tasks to the team. They don't freak out under pressure. They're cool under pressure, right? They're good at building and assembling a team, and they're good at solving complex problems, right? Interesting enough, when you look at the skills of successful leaders, right, you'll see almost exactly the same list. Another little joke from despair.com. Here we go. Inspiration. Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. That's what Edison said, right? Thomas Edison. And then the joke is right, which is why engineers sometimes smell bad. Okay. Planning. A lot of people want to start a project. Let's go, right? Let's jump in. Let's start doing, right? And we refer to that as ready, fire, aim. and that wastes bullets. We waste effort. We start working on the wrong stuff, and work or bullets are expensive. So we need to plan our work and get it down into manageable bites so we know what it is we're trying to do. So first I'll talk about scope. Right? We need to define the scope for the project very well, very clearly. And that means write it down. No sort of kind of maybes, right? We have to spell out what needs to be done. And it's the project manager's job to identify any ambiguity, or we forgot to do this. That's why we write things down. So the project sponsors, the people paying for the project, not the people on the project, not the people running the project, but the people who authorize the project, they need to know what the project is supposed to do. Right, here's what happens if you don't. This joke's been around, I think, longer than me. Right, here's as marketing requested it. We have a triple swing. As sales ordered it with 3 ropes instead of 3 seats. Engineering designed it. It's hooked to the wrong thing. Right, and then the manufacturing modified it wrong, and then it was modified. And here's what they wanted: just a nice little tire. Right. And then the point of this joke is, and those of people who've been on lots of projects think this is funny. Whether you do or not, I have no idea. But communication is important throughout the team and getting the scope of work correct. Everybody has a different vision of reality in their head and what they think they want. That's, again, why we write it down. Right? So we got to think about who determines the scope from your project and who is allowed to change that scope. Right? It's very important to have control over who's allowed to change the scope, because everybody gets good ideas about what they want done. So we introduce the idea of change control. Once we sign off on the scope and we start the project, say this is the thing we're going to do, right? We need a system for authorizing changes to that. Who's allowed to change it? The people that pay for the project, the people that work it. We need to know who's authorized to make changes, because that's going to affect the other 2 things: schedule and cost. So sometimes on work, we'll have this thing called a work breakdown structure, where we break things down into small bites, right? And notice it looks just like an org chart. Right? And I can show you an example here to sort of make sense out of this thing. Let's say we're building a mountain bike. So we have over here, we have wheels, right? Hubs, rims and spokes. They feed into the wheel system. Here we have shifters and gears and chains go into the gearing system, and so forth. The seat system, the padding and the cover and the metal frame of the seat go into that, right? So what we have is work breakdown structure, so we can track all the different parts. So this might be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. This would be 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and this is 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.1, and so forth, right? We keep adding more and more detail to these as we go further down. And for complex projects like building a skyscraper, these can get really big. Okay. So in a lot of projects, I'll just mention quickly, sometimes a feasibility study is needed first. We're going to try this thing to see if it'll work. And if it does, or we think we have enough evidence this will be okay, then we'll start detailed planning, and then execution is where we start doing things, and then termination is where we're wrapping it up. I took a 2-day project management class many, many years ago, and the teacher kept telling us the project manager's responsibility to plan and hold meetings, right? When you have cross-functional teams, communication can be an issue both inside the team and out. So it's very important that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, as we like to say. So it's the project manager's job to set up a system to make sure that necessary communication happens. So one of the things we typically have is project meetings, and they might be once a day, they might be twice a week, they might be once a week, I don't know. But we need to figure out what we're going to do. And what happens in those meetings, here's an idea, right, of an idea or a sample what might go on in those meetings. Milestones accomplished. So what have we done since the last meeting? We update all our activities that are ongoing. We update an action list. Who was supposed to do what and by when? So from the last meeting, we wound up the last meeting with an action list, right? John was supposed to find out the cost of this thing, and he was going to report back to us on Tuesday. Okay, did that happen? Yes or no? Yeah, it did. Okay, how much did it cost? All right, and then we're going to talk about issues at this meeting, and then we're going to end these issues with new action items. And by the way, we're going to write those down, and we're going to share those with the people that have their names on the action item list. We're going to often we do short-term reviews of what's going on, and sometimes people like to go once around the room for comments from everybody in the room, because some people don't like to speak unless they're called upon. And so to keep them from getting off the hook, right, we'll go around the room and everybody give us a chance to say how they're doing, or if there's anything they need help with. They have any issues. I don't like to use negative words, problems, but right, is there anything going on that the rest of us should know about? Problems have a lot of risk associated with them because they're unique one-time events. So the thing I want you to remember about risk is take it as early in the project as you can, because it's easier to fix, or if you have to stop the project, you've spent less money. So don't hide from risk. Go looking for it and try to solve them as soon as possible. A little funny little joke, risk, if you never try anything new, you'll miss out on many of life's great disappointments. There you go. I know you people are in a master's program, so you're somewhat risk takers already. You join this program not really knowing what you're going to learn, saying, hey, I can do this. Project failures. Survey shows that 70% or more of all projects fail. And the definition of fail is they don't do the required work and the required time for the required budget. And so it's very common they'll be a little late or a little over cost. Lots of things are causes for that. Let's take a look. The most common one is referred to sometimes as the activity trap. Right? It engulfs too many projects where stakeholders, the people responsible for the project, or the people that are receivers of the project, the project sponsors, the customers, the team members, they focus on what they want to do, not what they want to achieve. Right? So I'm going to work in this thing because I find it interesting or I find it useful, but maybe it's not what the project is supposed to do. This is not a conspiracy. This is just human nature. These people aren't trying to wreck your project. But the result is you have all these good ideas from stakeholders and project managers, but they don't keep people focused on the right outcome, and it leads to people wanting to add goodies to the project, as I call it. So refer to it as scope creep, where people want to say, you know, I had this thought, we could do this one little thing extra, and wouldn't that be nice? And we could do another little thing extra, wouldn't that be nice? And again, these are not people trying to wreck your project. These are people that are well-meaning people trying to make your project better in their mind. What they don't understand is if you keep adding to the scope, one little thing here, one little thing there, and they're not adding to the costs and budget, they're not adding to the budget, and they're not adding to the schedule. So at some point, very quickly, it would become impossible to do this extra work with the original money and the original schedule, the original time. So you need to be very, very careful about that. Again, you need some kind of change control process where not just anybody can change the scope of things you're working on. There has to be a review process, and you have to take the impact into everything, not just the scope, but the cost and the schedule into consideration. Because if you're going to do more work, it's only fair to pony up more money for the project, and maybe management doesn't want to do that. So you need to think very carefully about that. So that's my one advice to project managers. You've got to be a little bit of ruthlessness about protecting your scope, protecting your schedule. And when people come up to you, again, these are well-meaning people. I got a great idea, and they're all excited. You have to, I'll take it under advisement. We'll study for it. We'll get to it if we have time. And then again, you probably won't have time because 70% of the projects already are having trouble coming in on time. So you have to be careful. Another little joke about mistakes. Well, it could serve as a purpose of your life is to only serve as a warning to others, right? So again, don't let people pull that scope creep stuff on you and start adding to your scope and not your schedule, because then you'll be late and you'll be one of these sunken ships or a sunken project manager. Okay, schedules. All right, we talked a little bit about scope and a tiny little bit about how it's influenced on budget. Many of you have seen schedules that look like this. You probably didn't know they're called Gantt charts. Gantt. G-A-N-T-T was a guy's name. He was a friend of Taylor, who was the father of modern scientific management. And we're going to do one of these. So the way this works is this. You always have task on the y-axis, the vertical axis here on the green. And you always have time on the horizontal axis. Usually it's at the bottom. It's okay to put it at the top. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. We've all seen XY graphs before, and almost always the time is at the bottom. But it's okay to put them at the top. It doesn't matter. And this is in months. If you have a shorter project, could you use days? You bet. If you're working on inside a computer chip where the clock is running, you have nanoseconds, right? So the point of that is just use appropriate units for your particular project. Right, so here we have, we're going to build A, here's a milestone, A is done. Build B, B is done, and so forth. Now you don't have to usually signal it's done. You could have this triangle from build A feed right down to the triangle of build B, right? We call this, so A is a predecessor of B. A has to be finished before you can do B. So for instance, if I'm, what would I be doing? I guess I'm getting dressed in the morning, right? First I put on my socks, then I put on my shoes, right? And we have to do this in projects all the time. First, something has to happen before something else can happen, right? I have to dig the basement of the house and then pour the concrete basement walls before I can start working on the first floor of the house, right? That's just the way it has to be. So we have these predecessors in projects all the time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and can things happen at the same time? So for instance, I'll go to the analogy of building a house. Can I put the windows in while I'm wiring the electrical wiring inside the house? You bet. So what we try to do is, so things happen faster, we'll have these tasks, like task B and task C might happen in parallel. So suppose, for instance, task C can start after task A is finished, right? So I would move this diamond right here, right under A, and connect them with a line so that B starts and C starts at the same time as right when A is finishing. And that way the whole project down here shortens up. Instead of doing everything one after the other and only thing one at a time, I can do things in parallel and really shorten up the project. Right, so that's what I'm going to show you, how to make one of these in software, and that's going to be the homework assignment. So the next video for me is how to make a schedule with software, and then you're going to have a homework assignment that says this. Each of you are going to make a Gantt chart like the one I just showed you. You're going to do this software, and you're going to do a simple activity such as cooking dinner. You're going to have a minimum of 7 tasks, and at least 2 tasks have to happen in parallel. They have to happen at the same time. Okay, you're going to print that out and you're going to mail that to me. You're going to send that to me. You can use like print screen, things like that. To if you're having trouble saving the homework and sending it to me, just show me some kind of idea that you did this. So why am I having you do this? Because when you start putting schedules like this on your office or your cubicle wall and do it with a computer, it looks like you're organized. It looks like you know what you're doing. It makes you think things through, and you start thinking about what has to be done. First this, then this, right? You can't put your shoes on before you put your socks on. When this happens, could I possibly do these things at the same time or do other tasks at the same time and shorten up the whole duration of this project, yes or no? So this activity is a very useful one because it forces you to think these things through. And then when you're finished, you end up with a schedule and you have something to show. And then, of course, with the software, you can update this as you're working your way through this project. And you can use this in project reviews. You can show your managers. And I think it just makes you look a whole lot more professional. And looking professional is one of the things that helped you get, promotions and raises and successful assignments and all that. So that's a good thing. So again, here's the assignment. I'll put that on the Moodle page. And the next video will show you how to do the software to make a Gantt chart that looks something like this. So go ahead and click on the other video and it'll show you how to do this.